After these last 2 weeks, how important is it for you guys to keep at the level you've been at, knowing you have a stretch where you play Minnesota, you play Ohio State, but there's so much still at stake in these last 2 weeks of the regular season and then beyond?
Yeah, especially the emotional part of the games and, the intensity of them. And, yeah, I mean, kids obviously Monday woke up probably tired, sore, but, having won the game Sunday, hopefully as their bodies recover over the next couple of days, that excitement and their ability to showcase themselves, and if they're willing to, put in the work and play at that level, that's what you have to maintain. And so, be our last road games and short week. So a lot of things go into getting mentally ready to play Friday afternoon. So, that'll be the structure of the next couple of days. And, and I don't have a crystal ball to say that we're going to come out Friday afternoon playing the same level that we did Sunday. That's my hope, and that's our desire, and that's the plan. But the season's long, and obviously when Minnesota comes up on the schedule, and then Ohio State comes up the schedule, and you're getting ready for those games. In the back of the kids' mind, they better be ready to play, because if they're not, then good things probably won't happen. And so the big thing is, as we talk all year, is to try to play consistent from game to game and from weekend to weekend, and that'll be the goal. This weekend and the following week will no different than the other ones. So you get yourself focused, you get yourself ready to play at a high level Friday afternoon, and when that game's over, then you get ready for Saturday, and then Monday comes, and a little bit longer week next week to get ready for the final two games of the series against St. Cloud at home. So, but that's the goal. Now let's see if we can attain that goal to play at that level, because over the last 4 games, if we're willing to do that, now you have a chance to win the games.
Regular season winding down, certainly the playoff push. Do you feel that urgency from your team, like kind of like the blood's flowing, here we go, here's the stretch run? Because a lot of these players have been through some remarkable runs in the last couple of years, winning multiple championships, and they know the drill. Ultimately, where do you feel like your team's mindset is at right now?
Well, I mean, unlike other years, this one's tough to put in the same context because we look different. And so those kids the last couple, weekends, some of them played, a bunch of minutes. Some are, other kids have played more minutes than they normally do. So, we're in a different space than we were, but again, everybody can see the end and light at the end of that tunnel, because, we only have 4 games left. And so I think with everybody, days are getting brighter, longer. I can drive home in the afternoon and it's not dark out. I mean, your body naturally feels just better. And, it must be playoff season. So, there's some things at stake still with these 4 games, and let's see if we can be able to, manage those 4 games and do what we need to do to finish off the season on a real positive note. And then you turn the page, you turn the chapter, and get ready for the next part of the season.
Are you surprised that Marianne Picard is back on the ice today, given the way things were looking? I had to look back that it was 4 weeks ago. It seems like a really short amount of time to recover from an injury like that.
Yeah, I think anytime, the initial report or, the initial viewing of, any type of injury, especially with her, she's had, a couple cases in the past. So you're going to trust what she's going through and how she's reacting to it. And so, after the game against St. Thomas, things didn't look good. From the standpoint of, the visual part of what we were seeing and communication with her. But, then you step back and you get to Monday and Tuesday of that week, and, you get some evaluations, you get some imaging, and all of a sudden it's not as bad as we initially thought. And so what's the timeline? Everybody's timeline is going to be a little bit different, depending on your strength and your conditioning. And so in those cases, she's, got very strong legs, good condition. The next week of recovery went really well, and so, all of a sudden it's like it's looking better than we initially thought. And to have her on the ice, she had good rehabs last week, had 4 good skating sessions, and so We'll see, as the day goes, and tomorrow goes by and where we are Friday and everything's positive right now. And again, now I got to get back into competition and what's that look like. So we'll see Friday if she's able to dress and play. But if she is able to even give us, some minutes, that's going to be helpful because it gives us some depth, which we really don't have right now in regards to bodies.
What's it like to have a player like Lacey, who I think most would recognize as Olympic caliber, who ultimately was left off, still around, still a part of the action right now as you guys try and navigate without a handful of your players?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our whole roster and our whole team and, backtrack, 30 games, she's been really consistent. She's been good in a lot of our games. She's been great in a lot of our games. But as I mentioned earlier, individually look at players. Can you give me consistent effort from shift to shift and game to game and weekend to weekend? And if you do that collectively, you're probably going to have a successful year because your play's been good. But for her, the way she stepped up last weekend and again in both games this past weekend, in this weekend it was more physical than it was up in Minnesota. And that takes a toll on kids that are playing heavy minutes. If I look at both games against Ohio State, instead of having 5 penalty kill situations, I'd rather see that at 2 or 3 because just, again, we don't have a lot of bodies and some kids are going to have to play more minutes depending on how my special teams are dictated. But, to answer your question, she's been consistent. She's been good the last 5 or 6 weeks. She's elevated her game and played really well. And, that's one of the reasons we put her, the C on her jersey the last few weekends, just from the standpoint that, she's going to lead us. And if you saw the last couple of weekends, she's been doing that. And so hopefully that'll continue for the next 4 games.
I haven't seen Minnesota State since back in October. And I remember that being a fairly, like you were able to do possession, what you want to do with possession. Has that been something that throughout the season you've been pretty happy with most nights, or do you feel like there's maybe more you can do there to make sure you're doing the most and not maybe giving the puck away in some spots that wouldn't be great spots to give the puck away with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably every coach's dream is to find a group of players that, because, the game, a lot has to do with puck possession. You look at little things, face-offs. So, Saturday against Ohio State, we weren't very good in face-offs. Now we're chasing the puck. The first period Sunday, we were a lot better. So we ended up, not having to chase the puck as much. And so the big thing about, some of the teams that you play against is the best chances to create scoring opportunities is in your transition game. So if you're able to get pucks turned over in certain areas of the rink, how quickly can I go to the net? Because a lot of teams defend well. Most teams have really good goaltenders. And if they get their structure set up in the defensive zone, then it becomes harder. And so, puck possession is huge. I mean, if we have everybody here, it's going to look different than, what we look like now. And so, those little parts of the game that we really have to hone into. And I thought for a bunch of it against Ohio State were pretty good. But, your puck possession, your willingness to play defense and your one-on-one play becomes important. And so, we looked at film. We just have to recover, get ourselves back at a real high level, come back, with some energy and get ready to, drop the puck on Friday and play at a high level. And that'll be the goal. And it shouldn't matter who you're playing against. You just need to play up to your capabilities. And if we do that, now we have a chance to win.
Just to touch on the Olympics briefly, off to a great start for U.S. national team in the Olympics. And do you have a level of pride like that you look at these young women that come into your program as 17, 18-year-olds, and now they represent the country on the biggest stage? I mean, I just saw Layla on a television commercial yesterday for laundry detergent. I mean, and she's a star. And you have in large part, a good portion of them becoming young women and adult women. Do you have pride in these women at this level of scale, even if it isn't on the ice?
Well, I think, with Layla, especially what she's done off the ice is remarkable. And, you have to give her a lot of credit because not all elite athletes, when given a certain platform, do it in a real positive way and help other people, whatever walk of life they're in. And so she's more about giving than receiving. And so with all of them, I give a lot of credit to them individually, and they all have different stories on how they got to where they're at right now. Hillary's played in 5 Olympics. We got a couple kids that are now playing in their first Olympics. They're past to get there. I think of Blair Turnbull, for Team Canada, and I think this is her 3rd Olympics. How'd she get there, and some of the adversities that she had to withstand and get through. To strengthen herself, and once she gets an opportunity, all of a sudden the next thing you know, she's in the Olympics. She's got a couple gold medals. I mean, it's remarkable, some of the stories that these young ladies that we were, a part of and helped them in their journey. But, a lot of the credit goes to the players because it's not easy to do. There's not a lot of people you run into on a daily basis say, I was an Olympian, I was a 2-time Olympian, I was a 3-time Olympian. Hillary, there's a unique space. I'm a 5-time Olympian. I've won a gold medal. I've had silver. It's remarkable that these kids have gotten to that level. And, the game this afternoon should be fun to watch. And if they take care of business, both Canada and U.S., next week we get to get treated with a gold medal game, hopefully, and it'll be really fun to watch. And who's going to make plays and who's going to be able to stop pucks and all the little things that go into winning a hockey game. One team's going to be able to do probably a little bit better than the other, and they'll be rewarded with a gold medal and an experience and a lifetime achievement that not a lot of people get a chance to be part of and then ultimately win. All right, thank you.